This comes from Matthew 3, verses 13 through 17. Then Jesus came from Galilee to John at the Jordan to be baptized by him. John would have prevented him, saying, "I need to be baptized by you, and do you come to me?" But Jesus answered him, "Let it be so for now, for it is proper for us in this way to fulfill all righteousness." Then he consented, and when Jesus had been baptized, just as he came up from the water, suddenly the heavens were opened to him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and alighting on him. And a voice from heaven said, "This is my Son, the beloved, with whom I am well pleased." This is the reading of the scripture.
When I saw that picture this morning, I thought, I remember that place. A few years ago, I was blessed with the opportunity. My oldest son and I, we went to the Holy Lands and came back with a daughter-in-law. It was Land of Miracles. But I remember seeing that angle, and that water is so cold. You would think, oh, we're in Israel, and it's hot, and it's the desert, and that water comes off the mountaintop, and it is icy cold. After the service this morning, I was talking with Charlotte Leach, and she said, we've been to the Holy Lands a couple of times. We've stood in that spot too, but we also have come up from the Jordan side. And she said, I remember standing there by the Jordan River, and it just hit me that Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit were all in the same place at the same time when Jesus was baptized. And she said, I've heard that story all my life, but to be there and just make that connection, she said, it was just amazing. So if you ever get a chance to go, I would encourage you to do that. It's not what it looks like in Sunday school. That was another thing that we kind of noticed. Well, last week I spent some time talking about the fact that there is a plan. And we talked about it, God's plan of salvation, and that it's deliberate, it's on purpose, it's intentional. And this week I want to build on that by saying that baptism is part of that plan. Part of that plan. Now, we need to recognize here at the very beginning, Jesus did not need to be baptized. The reasons we get baptized did not apply to Jesus. He was free of sin. There was no need to be forgiven, to be washed clean. More importantly, he knew deep down in his heart, he knew he was connected with God and with other people. He was part of that community. So why get baptized at the beginning of his earthly ministry? Even John, it's like, what are you doing here? I think there are a couple of reasons for why Jesus was baptized. I believe that he was baptized as an example for us to follow. Jesus was baptized, and this is, I think, a more important reason, because he never asks us to do something he himself has not already done. That is important. It's hard to respect and follow a person who refuses to get his own hands dirty when he's constantly asking his followers to climb into the mud pit of life. And Jesus does do that. We're not a prim and proper faith. Jesus says you're going to have to get dirty. You're going to have to get down in the trenches, because that's where the lost are. That's where my children are. You've got to go where they are. Feed the hungry. Well, Jesus already did that. Comfort the grieving. Jesus already did that. Heal the sick. Forgive the unforgivable. Love the unlovable. Jesus has already done those things. So when Jesus asks us to do those things, Jesus understands how hard and frustrating it can be. He also knows It can be done. In the scripture, there is a phrase, "It is proper in this way for us to fulfill all righteousness." Doesn't that sound all toffee-nosed? Oh, yes, it's proper in this way for us to fulfill. And that's a shame. I shouldn't have read it that way. Righteousness is not thought of very highly these days, and that is tragic. We need to reclaim that word and the power of that word, that understanding. When was the last time, especially outside of church, did anyone hear of someone concerned about being righteous? Can you imagine if a politician went on the news and said, "Well, I didn't do that because it would have been unrighteous"? They would crucify him. It would be hard. No. And that's a shame. We need righteous people running for public office at every level. We need righteous people running our companies. We need righteous people. Now, usually we'll say something like, "Well, that person is so self-righteous," as a form of condemnation. We've lost the meaning and the importance of righteousness. This is where we have to kind of explain it in a way where we define the word with the definition. To be righteous is to be in the right relationship with God first, with other people, and with yourself. Being in that right relationship is what righteousness is all about. It's a balanced way of living, and it's a good thing. It helps us to do the right thing for the right reasons, and that is also important. Doing the right thing for the wrong reasons can lead to problems. Being baptized by John for Jesus was the right thing for Jesus to do. And so Jesus was doing it not to impress anybody, not to manipulate or deceive anybody. He was doing it because it was the right thing at the right time. And in doing so, Jesus pleased God. That alone is reason enough to do something. It pleases God. When was the last time that you deliberately did something to please God? Now, you know, I ask you that question in a different way at the end of the service every week. If you did something this past week that blessed someone, that shared Christ's love with someone, would you raise your hand? When you did those things, I think God smiles. Just delights when we behave and treat each other the way we're supposed to. And it's not to earn God's favor. It's not to get points. But it's just doing an act of kindness. Loving on somebody. Just something to make God smile. It's kind of an odd thing to think about, though. You know, what do you get the deity who has everything? Well, you give him something that makes him smile. I got to thinking about my granddaughter, who is 5.5, and she makes me smile all the time. She makes me smile when she's glad to see me and her face lights up and she runs towards me. "Papa!" She makes me smile when she gives me a big hug. She makes me smile when she tells me about her life. She makes me smile when she says, "Papa, let's go play dirt." That's her favorite game, playing dirt. We can play that for hours, believe me, hours. She makes me smile by being herself. I realize that as she gets older, this will happen less and less. And it's not because I love her less or she's become unlovable. That's not going to ever happen. And it's not because her love for me has diminished, but as she gets older, her life will become more complicated. Her attention will be more divided. There'll be more things calling for her time. And so she will have to be, and this was a phrase that came to me several times, and I realized that it's like saying repeatedly redundant you know, you're not supposed to do this to English, but she will have to be deliberately intentional. Okay? That phrase, deliberately intentional, on purpose, being intentional on purpose. I'm repeating myself over and over, but I want that to stick. She will have to be deliberately intentional in sharing her love for me with me, in taking time to spend time with me. And I realize in my own life that I have been distracted and that I need to be deliberately intentional about putting God first in my life and sharing my love for God with God. Doing things on purpose that I know will please God, make God smile. How are you doing in regard to this? I ask you this question so that you can ask it of yourself. It's not my place to judge. I've already admitted I've got a lot of work to do. But how are you doing? Are you good with God? Are you good with the people around you? Are you good with yourself? And that may be the hardest question for some of us to answer. There are some people who are absolutely brutal with how they treat themselves. And that is not God's intent. How righteous do you feel? Ironically, sometimes the people that are the most righteous are the ones that feel the lack of it the most. Say, well, I'm not anything special. And you look at their lives and you think, but you seem to be hanging out with God all the time. If you don't feel like you're doing very well with your connection with God or with other people or with yourself, what are you going to do about it on purpose? What are you going to do about it? You can't just sit back and go, well, I hope it gets better. That strategy usually doesn't work. I have seen people adopt that when it came to their health care, and then we put them in the ground maybe 6 months later. Well, if I don't go to the doctor and admit that there's a problem here, then it's not real. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And if we say, I don't have a problem with God, yes, you do. Well, but it'll get better on its own. No, it won't. Every day we can be deliberately intentional about being part of God's plan of salvation. And we do that through sharing the good news of Jesus, being faithful disciples, seeking righteousness. In the Methodist Church, John Wesley said, all of us are capable of perfection. Few of us achieve it, but we're moving on to perfection. That's what sanctifying grace is all about. God's grace has called us, has justified us, and is now helping us to be holy, to be righteous. God says, let me help you with this because it's important. Just like I want to help Mira spend time with me, my granddaughter. And so there are things that I do to help her. But she still has to choose to want to be with me. And, I could just go and pick her up. Don't tell her anything about it. Just show up at her house and say, get in the car, we're going. Well, but I've got a birthday party to go to. Well, I'm busy. I'm watching Bluey. I'm doing whatever. She likes to watch Mira, the Royal Detective. Go figure. But I don't want to be that person. I'll force you to like me. I'll force you to spend time. I want her to want to be with me. God wants us to want to be with God, to seek God. And so leaning on the strength of God's Holy Spirit will help us to do that, to be more righteous. This week, let us be deliberately intentional. I told you that phrase just kept coming to me about being righteous, right with God, right with the people around us, and right with ourselves. May we grow in faith and serve in Christ's name. Amen.